Welcome to our free webinar for brands, community events as a growth channel. The measurable impacts brands are overlooking. We are so honored to have Kaitlin Janes with us today. Kaitlin is the founder of Tether Community Marketing, a boutique marketing agency helping consumer brands build high-performing influencer programs rooted in strategy, trust, and connection. She brings over 7 years of experience in PR and influencer marketing with a strong focus on food, health, wellness, and tourism brands. A few quick reminders before we dive in. We'll be publishing this recording as a replay in the Tastemaker Collaborative, so please double check your Zoom settings and make sure you are muted at all times. If you have questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to drop those in the chat. We'll be sure to circle back to all the questions in the last 10 minutes of the webinar during the Q&A. And speaking of the chat, our presenters love when you chime in and participate there. So please remember to keep all comments respectful of both the presenters and your fellow attendees. Type away. And with that, Kaitlin, thank you so much for being here today. We'll turn the time over to you.
Thank you, Candace. I just noticed that my Wi-Fi is starting to be a little spotty, of course, so feel free to interrupt me if I'm getting blurry or fuzzy or any of those sorts of things. But thank you, Tastemaker, for having me, and thank you, everybody who's tuning in, whether it's now or at the replay. I'm so excited to be talking about community events. That's my bread and butter. So just to have a group here who cares about it as much as I do is really exciting. So today we'll be diving into community events and how brands can use that as a growth channel. So a little bit about me. I'm Kaitlin Janes, as Candace said. I have 8 years of experience in PR and influencer marketing, where I've partnered with food, wellness, and hospitality brands across the board to help them build their influencer programs from the ground up, or to help them scale and just build those really good high-performing creator programs that feel good for both creators and brands. So last year I launched Tether Community Marketing. I found this gap between brands and creators and a lack of alignment and education, and I wanted to help fill that. So now I work with both brands and creators to help build and scale incredible programs that feel intentional and human, but still drive those results that we all need at the end of the day. Okay, so enough about me. Let's just get into this agenda. We only have 30 minutes today, and there's so much to talk about when it comes to community. So I want to make sure we hit a couple of key points. I think the first thing to say is that community, there's a lot to cover here, but today specifically, we'll be talking about how to partner with creators to activate communities and meet your audiences where they are. So we'll be talking about that and how we can take these communities and really engage them, but also see how that can lead to conversion. So we'll start by talking about why community events matter now more than ever. And we'll talk about how some brands now are activating creator communities online. And I'll share some really good examples that I found just from the past couple of weeks. And then we'll talk about that impact and conversion beyond awareness. And then we'll open that up to a quick Q&A. Okay, so let's get started. So why community? Why now? Why should your brand be activating these communities? And as I say community, I'm just thinking about how this is such a buzzword right now. It's kind of like the new authenticity, but I do think it's going to be lasting at least in the next couple of years, but I think even beyond. I think this is the new wave of social media. So I think if you're not already on building communities through events and activations, I think this is the year for your brand to get started. So to start, we're in this connection era, post-pandemic. Obviously, it's been a couple of years, but since the pandemic, we're finding that everybody is really wanting to become friends with the people that they're meeting online. They're wanting to do more things in real life. They're kind of sick of being on their phones, with 95% of 18 to 35-year-olds wanting in-person events that are rooted in their online interests. So on social media, we're seeing that people are able to gravitate towards and find these new hobbies and interests, whether it's knitting or wine or a cookbook club or a regular book club. And they're wanting to take those online interests and actually find communities in person where they can act on those interests together and find that commonality. So 73% are actually planning to attend an event in the next 6 months, including myself. And I think a lot of us here probably have seen all these events pop up, whether it's like locally or on social media. I feel like everybody's really getting into this community game, knowing how many people like really want to be there. So next, we're seeing that because of this shift in behavior, social platforms have already noticed this, and the feeds are getting more niche. So this is a huge trend that I'm predicting for 2026. I think this is going to continue to become more noticeable. And TikTok and Instagram have actually come out to say that they are prioritizing localized feed and interest-based content. So by localized, I mean, so I'm based in Columbus, Ohio, and a lot of times on TikTok, I find creators that are sharing like the best Columbus coffee shops, or maybe there's a jewelry store that's hosting an event. And I realized just in the past couple of months, I'm getting so much more of that localized content. And that's because TikTok knows that people are searching for interests and things to do in person in their communities. Um, and same with search and SEO now on Instagram. People are seeing, or Instagram is seeing that people are searching specifically for their interests, and they're wanting to stay on that content. They're engaging with that content, and Instagram wants to continue to push that out. So consumers are trusting these tight-knit communities over the traditional, broader lifestyle influencer content that we maybe saw last year and years ago. So it's really getting very tight and interest focused rather than broad. And then going analog as a movement, this is probably one of my, whoops, probably one of my favorite things. I don't know if any of you have seen the analog bags that have been trending. I think maybe starting last year. But this is really becoming not just a trend, but a movement. So there's this rise of hobby-based gathering, kind of like what I talked about in relation to the connection era. So people are finding these new hobbies from online, and they're wanting to craft more, they're wanting to read more, and just do more things with people in real life rather than digitally. There's also the digital and dopamine detox culture. That's a tongue twister. With people recognizing how much they're on their screens. So I know one of my New Year's resolutions was to be on my screen less. I actually bought one of those bricks, which is the photo here. And there's a huge movement of Gen Z specifically that are sick of being on their phones. They're making 2016 nostalgic. And they really just like kind of want to like live how it used to be. I see that mentioned a lot on TikTok. So consumers are wanting these real life experiences, and brands need to meet these consumers where they are. Okay, so let's see this in action a little bit. A lot of this is just from the past couple of weeks, but for the past couple of years, some big brands have been making moves in the community experiences space. So to start, on the left, we have Isabel Heikens. She is a hosting creator and a recipe developer, and she partnered with Cezanne to host a really intimate dinner with just some of her friends, and there might have been some creators there, but it was really intimate and small. And what I love about this is that it's not focused on this huge reach, or on, it's not complicated. It's really simple. This creator, she already hosts, she already loves to do this. So she is bringing that experience to the group of her friends, and Cezanne is just coming along with them. There's no intense key messaging or deliverables. It's really just an organic moment that Cezanne now gets to be a part of. I don't know every single piece that Cezanne activated on within this partnership, but I could see like donating Cezanne gifts to all of the guests to encourage them to trial out their products and their clothing. Could be another great way to engage this group. And then in the past couple of weeks, we saw Madewell. They partnered with Jordan, I believe her name's Jordan Risa, and she is a community book club host. So she's a book club host in New York City, and she has about 30,000 followers. She's a micro influencer in the space. And her book club also has gained somewhat of a following. So she hosts different pop ups, intimate book clubs, and just events in general. And Madewell saw an opportunity to sponsor one of these book clubs with Madewell branding, and they shared gifts with the group that attended. And then there's also social deliverables in the mix as well with Jordan, including on her Substack, which I could get into Substack and talk all about that, but that is another channel that is blowing up right now and could be a great addition to some of these community events and how you can make it a bigger picture beyond the in-person moment. And then we have Simply, which was actually a client of mine, and I supported this campaign. And they partnered with Strava, the running app, on a campaign called Moved by Motherhood. So for this campaign, they partnered with um, a motherhood running club based out of New York, but also all over the country. So they sponsored these running clubs, and not only that, but there's creators within these running clubs. And then they also had social deliverables with those creators as well. So it really spanned across multiple markets. And they had a ton of great brand collabs here. So there was Strava. There was Simply, which is pantry staples and like olive oils, and it's all based on regenerative organic. I encourage you to look it up. It's a great brand. But then they also partnered with Tool Strollers. Tower 28 Beauty. So there's a lot of opportunity for brand collaboration in addition to partnering with this run club for that further exposure. And then we have Kate Glavin. She is a running specific creator, and she also has a podcast. And she has partnered with Hoka for the past couple of years. So she was already hosting a run club. Hoka saw this opportunity and they partnered with her to sponsor these run clubs to provide products along with social deliverables from Kate. So these are all great examples of different ways brands can activate communities through these community creators. And a lot of these creators, something that I love is that they're all, for the most part, pretty micro creators, which means that although having an event is a larger budget item for brands, when you're working with a smaller creator, it becomes a little bit more budget efficient and budget friendly. Okay, so let's talk about measuring. So, what I came across in my time working with brands and continue to come across is that everybody likes the idea of activating communities, they like the idea of events. But like I was just touching on, they tend to cost a good amount of money. And sometimes there's not much that comes out of it outside of awareness. These events will, at the forefront, mostly always be awareness focused campaigns. So, if conversion is the goal, originally that would be really hard to share with business leaders to convince them to be part of these community programs. But there's actually a ton of different ways that, in addition to these experiences, brands can measure the impact and share that with business leaders to continue driving ROI. So, from an awareness perspective, obviously we can measure the event attendance, how many people came, how many people signed up via the link. What kind of organic social mentions did we see? So, how many people were posting and tagging the brands during these community events? What were they saying? What was that qualitative data looking like? And then creator content performance. This could be both awareness and conversion. We'll talk about the conversion side in a second. But from the creator content performance side, if you're partnering with a creator on those additional deliverables outside of the event, you can obviously look at what was the reach, what were the impressions of that specific piece of content, and what was the engagement like on that. Then when we're shifting a little bit more to conversion, I think that there's so many fun things that brands could do to measure this. So I love the idea of a shoppable experience during the community event. So an example would be Madewell. While they were sponsoring that book club, maybe they were having a pop-up, or I don't know how many Madewell shoppers there are here, but you can donate jeans and then you get like $40 off or something, a new pair. So maybe they could have a pop-up of that, but maybe they get 60% or $60 off of a new pair in person. So could you be selling in person? Could you create exciting ways to do that? Could you offer a discount code, and could it be limited time? In a similar vein, could you have an affiliate code just for that specific group, and then they can share that discount code with their friends and make that exposure even deeper? And then there's also content whitelisting. So from that creator that is posting their deliverables and their content, can you whitelist that? Can you turn that into ads? And can you drive that to your sales page? Or maybe it's something even more engaging. Can you drive it to a sweepstakes or a giveaway? And can you use that content on the brand's organic social feed? So I think there's so many ways that you can take this in-person connection and community that consumers are craving and transfer it to a converting campaign that also makes those brand leaders really happy. Okay, so I kind of like flew through that. Um, I'm wondering if there's any questions that we have as of right now. And Chandace, feel free to cut in too.
Here, I can step in. This is Leslie. Sorry, Candace's Wi-Fi went out. It was Candace's Wi-Fi.
Oh,
The
okay.
spotty, not yours. Um, we don't currently have any questions. So if you do have questions, put them in the chat right now. Okay. I'm sure people are typing away.
And if not, if there are no questions right now, I'm happy to share my email to further connect. I can also go back to any slides if there are any questions right now, but I know sometimes it takes a little bit to kind of soak in. But I guess a prompt too for the group is I'd love to know if there's been any community events that you've seen that you've really loved, or if there's been a challenge to executing these community events that maybe I didn't cover.
Okay, so we have a question from Willie. Willie asks, what's the best way to launch a program like this? Would we reach out to IG influencers who already throw in-person events, or find someone who doesn't do it yet and start it from there, etc.?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And before I even answer it, I will say that I think one of the most important pieces of a campaign like this is finding a creator who's a really good match for your brand. So I'll just go back to the example slide. So for example, Kate Glavin, like she is a running influencer and she already hosted these run clubs. So Hoka, and she had worn Hoka and tagged them organically and was already a big fan. So it made a ton of sense for Hoka to get involved. I think this is the easiest way to start getting involved in these types of campaigns is by finding creators who are already doing these types of activations. However, I don't think that a brand needs to limit themselves to that, to only working with creators who are already doing it. I know that an example I didn't share here, but like Fenty Beauty worked with a creator, House Chris, and essentially just worked with her to host an event for her friends and local influencers. And she doesn't typically host events. She does every now and again, but she doesn't have like a community group that she's working on this with every single month. So that's an example of they knew that she was a great creator. They'd worked with her in the past. They knew that they wanted to reach her audience. So they worked with her to host an event individually. So that wasn't part of her monthly rhythm, if you will.
Okay, so it looks like that's the only question that we had. I'm dropping Caitlin's email in the chat right now. So if you do have questions that you think of later and you want to reach out to her, her email's in the chat.
Uh,
Um,
I am seeing one more also from Willie,
oh, great.
just about working with one creator, possibly getting multiple. And I think getting multiple is a great idea. I think logistically that can have some challenges, but I think typically people work with one creator. But I think if you're able to find a group of creators that are friends, or if you start working with one creator and then have them recommend another creator that maybe they would want to collaborate with, I think that could be really great because you're just extending that exposure to both of their audiences. But again, logistically, that might be just more challenging, and that's something to keep in mind. And budget wise, that would probably be a little bit more expensive as well.
Great. Okay. Are there any other
Um,
questions that are going to drop in here at any moment that I miss? If not, like I mentioned, Caitlin's email is in the chat, so you can email her. Willie says, thanks for all the knowledge. Um, yeah, and thanks everybody for tuning in, and thanks, Caitlin, for your presentation. It was awesome.
yeah, thanks everybody. Thank you, Tastemaker. And I hope to connect with you all again soon.
Okay, thanks, Caitlin.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.